What's up guys, Max Digital here, and in this video I just want to talk about how the upcoming iPhone SE 3 will be super awesome. Now, most people will tell you that they're not excited about it. This is a very plain, cheap, lower end iPhone, but that's coming from the people that are used to these $1,000 iPhone SE, iPhone 13s, the Pros, the Maxes, the really expensive phones. Now that's fine. That's good. If you are used to those expensive phones, I could see why you don't like or talk about or be excited about the cheaper iPhone. But in reality, it's the lower priced iPhones that dictate where Apple goes. Because around the world, there's a lot of people that aren't able to afford the iPhone. So when they are given a newer phone at a cheaper price point, that turns heads. That's what actually Apple wants to get your attention. And they get it from doing things on the lower end of the price spectrum. And they've been doing that with their SE line. You know, this is going to be the third iPhone SE. And usually with the iPhone SE, when it's released, it basically has the same processor as the newest phone, but with an old school body. So a newer outside, the same outside, but a new guts inside. So it's all the process. It makes it feel like a newer iPhone, but it looks the same. But there's a reason for that. So the iPhone SE 3 will probably be the same price as the predecessor at $399. So $400 for an iPhone. That's the cheapest iPhone you could buy brand new from Apple. But why this is even more exciting is that you get this phone when the iPhone SE usually launches. It is always released everywhere, and you get a very exciting price point in the prepaid category. When you port in a number or something like that, these phones get heavily discounted. So this phone is going to follow that. And let's just talk about what improvements the iPhone SE 3 will have over the predecessors. So obviously the two big things that are going to be for sure going to be released with this iPhone S3, the two biggest features right off the bat is going to be 5G, and it's going to be the newer processor. That's a given right there. I mean, Apple is going to go all in on 5G. This is going to push a lot of people into the 5G realm that have been holding on to their older iPhone SEs or their smaller phones, or iPhone 11s and 10Rs and 10Ss and stuff like that. They're all going to get a big boost to 5G. So that's a given. That was probably the number one thing. iPhone will 4G is going to be dying pretty soon on the iPhone market, and everyone's going to have a 5G iPhone. So that's the most obvious one. The other obvious one is the newest processor. That's always a given. That's usually the least exciting thing about the release of a new iPhone. It's always going to have the newest internal processor, very speedy. So those are the two things I want to get out of the way. But it's going to be some more interesting questions, and these are probably the better reasons why the iPhone SE gets me excited, why it's going to be a successful phone, what's going to make it a really good buy. And let's see. So, I mean, even though they're keeping the smaller, older form factor all the way from the iPhone 6, so this is like a 6-7 year model that they're trying to sell to people. But the thing that gets me excited is here in 2022, the newer iPhones, the bigger ones, the more modern ones, going from the 10R and up, to me, the most important thing is battery life. That's probably the thing that matters most to me in a smartphone. As long as you can do all the other things at a basic level, the battery is the one that dictates how good of an experience you have with a phone. If it has battery, you could use it. And even if a phone has the most top end specs or the most low end specs, if it doesn't have battery life and it dies, you can't use it. It doesn't matter. It's a disappointment. So every iPhone since the 10R that's been released, and it has a Face ID and the full screen, the modern iPhones, they all have a great battery life. Even the iPhone mini line. Here when the iPhone SE 2 launched, the 2020 version launched, it had the top end specs internally, even though it had the old form factor. But the one big thing that it lacked, and it finally hit me, and I'm sure to a lot of people, there were great People were really happy to buy a cheaper iPhone with more modern internal specs. Is the battery life. The battery life of the iPhone SE 2020 is garbage. You can't last like a quarter of the day on it. You will not make it. And that where, you know, if you don't have the battery, it's a terrible phone. It has 1800 milliamps. That's not enough. Here with the new iPhones, the iPhone XR was the first iPhone that was premium, that really gave good battery life without going to the super gigantic design. And I think that's where the iPhone SE 3 is going to be a special point that Apple is going to make when it announces this phone. It's going, and let me tell you why. Now, there's going to be two things that are going to happen here. And there's only two ways that this could happen to make great battery life on iPhone. I really believe that the iPhone SE 3, one of its highlight features, is going to be good battery life as compared to the other iPhone SE 2020 version. And so first off, it's probably going to be the chip. The chip is probably the easiest way to make battery life happen, because that's obviously what happened with the iPhone 13. You got the newer chip. It's going to be more efficient on the overall battery usage, so that's there. Another thing, which it might not be possible if they keep the exact same body of the iPhone SE 2020. I don't think they'll be able to squeeze in literally a bigger battery, more milliamps. But it's possible. Maybe they could. Maybe they can move around the parts internally and somehow squeeze, squeeze in a bigger battery. And I really think that's going to be, it's being a 5G phone. So 5G phones use up way more juice. And I don't think Apple is going to release a 5G phone that has crappy battery life. I mean, the other one, the iPhone SE 2020, had 4G and it had crappy battery life. So how are you going to release a 5G version of the same phone and have the same crappy battery life or worse? You can't do that. That'll be a flop. Nobody will buy it. Bad press everywhere. So this is why this phone's going to be popular. It's going to be a very good phone because it's going to force Apple to make this phone have 5G and have good battery life. You can't release one without the other. It has to go hand in hand. So you're going to get 5G, you're going to get a newer, faster chip, the A15, just like the iPhone 13, and it's going to have good battery life. Now there's other little things here and there that are going to be improved and different. So probably the camera, even if it keeps the same camera, it might have like night mode and stuff like that, little things that make the camera just stand out a little bit better. It's still going to have the home button. You're still going to have the bezels and stuff like that. But a lot of people love those form factors, the compact form factor. And, other things like, is it going to have MagSafe? Apple has to cut corners somewhere to keep it at this $400 price point. Is it going to have the U1 chip, just like the iPhone 11 and newer? That might be important right there. So it's like little things like that are probably not, they're not going to say it in the announcement, but you'll probably find them on the spec sheet. But yeah, it's always going to be the cheaper iPhone that moves a lot of units. And Apple's been doing this for years, where they either discount the previous model or they introduce a new one using internal, they already have like the body and the chassis and all the parts from the older models to save money. Apple's perfect at squeezing out efficiency from the manufacturing process to parts to marketing. They're going to squeeze out everything that they could, every last drop of efficiency. And this isn't going to be any different. This is going to be a breakthrough because you got 5G and you got the new chip and battery life. Those are the top three things that'll make this iPhone SE 3 a super hit. And it's bound to take away a lot of Android users in the process. So there you go, guys. Are you excited about the iPhone SE 3 and are you going to get it? Tell me why or why not. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.